Welcome back to the show today. We're talking about what makes a good NBA Finals, whether or not this NBA Finals is a good one, and more broadly, what makes the NBA Finals interesting, what makes basketball interesting in general, what causes people to gain or lose interest in the league, what's fueling the industry of professional sports. Of course, we all love watching our favorite athletes play their games, but personally, I think people get just as much enjoyment from watching the game as they do hearing the commentary about the game that night or the next morning. Think about how much time you spend listening to NBA podcasts and watching NBA YouTube videos versus how much time you spend watching the game of basketball itself. For me, even during the regular season where there's usually a game every night, I still end up listening to more basketball podcasts and watching YouTube videos than I do watching the game. I believe the reason is we're all human and we like stories, and the media helps provide context to these stories that play out on the court, even though sometimes the context can feel more like fan fiction. We like to be able to connect to other human beings emotionally. Sure, you've never been eliminated from the playoffs in a historic upset, but I'm sure you've felt defeated before. I'm sure you've been confronted with the hard reality that you've been outworked by someone you thought was inferior to you. This is how we connect to certain players and why we have certain aversions to other players. So a good finals is a finals featuring players that people are most connected to. It could be a deep connection. As an example, think about Markelle Fultz. He's a #1 draft pick that inexplicably lost his shot in the middle of his rookie year, and he spent the last 5 years in Orlando trying to cement his place as a starter. A lot of people aren't concerned about Markelle's career, but the people that are concerned are deeply concerned. That's an example of a deep attachment to a player. Or you have broad connections, which would be a player like LeBron James. Everyone knows his story, everyone knows his name, it's very easy to follow. But no one's deeply concerned about what's going on with LeBron in his career. LeBron's gonna be fine. But broadly enjoyed players are gonna bring more attention to the playoffs, and they're gonna drive more numbers. And if we look at finals ratings over the last 20 years, and I know TV ratings don't give us exactly an accurate idea of how many people watch the game, it at least gives us a baseline of how many people are watching the game year to year. Guess which finals of the last 20 years had the most viewership? It was the Golden State Cleveland years with LeBron and Steph. By a lot, too. The 2015 finals had double the viewership of any of the finals over the last 5 years. Game 7 of the 2016 finals had the most viewers of any game since the 1998 finals with Michael Jordan and the Utah Jazz. The last dance year. So what made those LeBron-Steph finals so special? Well, Golden State was at the beginning of acquiring all those bandwagon fans. And granted, Cleveland had the biggest star in the NBA, but that wouldn't explain why LeBron in the Heat finals wouldn't garner as much attention. So what's up? Why did all the casuals show up for these finals in particular? There are actually a few different reasons. The first reason was Steph Curry. Curry was coming off his first MVP season in 2015, and for whatever reason, sports fans fell in love with the guy. Maybe it was because he was a family man. Maybe it was because he was a man of God. Maybe it was his boyish appearance. Maybe it was because he changed the game with his efficient and high-volume three-point shooting. Those are my ideas. What are yours? I assume it was a combination of all of them. Steph was everywhere. He became more well-liked than Kevin Durant, probably the second biggest star in the league. The Warriors were also a young team, which made them really exciting, and they felt like scrappy underdogs. On the other hand, you had LeBron James, who became a polarizing player after he left Cleveland the first time. So you had a really incredible David and Goliath story. A team that hadn't been good in decades became an all-time great team. And the stars that were their star players had been Golden State Warriors for their entire career, versus LeBron, who'd gained a reputation of being kind of a ring chaser. This was the current face of the league being challenged by the new face of the league. And that's why I thought these series were so interesting, and why I think they had the highest rating. It was because the two players that casual fans knew were playing each other. It was the one guy versus the other guy. It was also that way for 4 straight years, so it was easy to retain interest. There weren't any new characters to learn about. The American public could just jump back in the finals and watch LeBron versus Steph again. They didn't have to watch a single regular season game to know what's going on. And one thing I find very interesting is people will always say they don't like dynasty. They say they don't want the same team winning year after year. They want someone new to win. It's getting boring watching the same team win every year. Do you hear this from your casual fan friends? The funny thing is, they may want a new team to win, but that doesn't mean that it would make the game more interesting for them. Every year that Michael Jordan was in the finals, people watched a little bit more. The 1998 finals was the most watched finals of all time, and viewership went down during the 1994 and 1995 finals, where Michael Jordan wasn't there. It's the same thing with the Super Bowl. Every year the Pats were in the Super Bowl, the viewership would go up, and it's kind of becoming that way with the Chiefs now, because there's more people invested in the Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Andy Reid story. Think about the sports that you don't watch. If the only 2 teams that you actually knew players from were playing in the World Series, would you watch it? Probably not. You probably still wouldn't watch. But you'd be more inclined than if it was the Diamondbacks and the Rangers. That was the World Series last year. You probably don't know that, because most people didn't watch. If you're watching a TV show or a movie, you want to know what's going on. You want to be invested in the character. You want to know who the good guy is, and you want to know who the bad guy is. If you come home and your roommate is watching the series finale of some show you've never seen an episode of, you might sit down, you might watch it, but you're not going to be invested in it. You're not going to care because you don't know what's going on. That's the way I think it is when there's an NBA Finals where there's no household names. So I believe this year with the finals, it's kind of a building year. Viewership is even down a little bit from last year. And granted, the Celtics are one of the most supported franchises in the league, and Dallas is one of the largest markets in the league. But only real NBA fans are invested in these finals. I think it takes winning a finals for for NBA players to kind of transcend into pop culture. I think if Jokic and the Nuggets were playing right now in the finals for a back-to-back championship, more people would be watching. And of course, if LeBron, Curry, or Durant were in the finals, it would draw a lot of those fair weather NBA fans out. But ultimately, I believe this year will grow the league. It'll raise the profile of a guy like Luka, Brown, Tatum, who are younger players, and they're going to be in the league for the next 10 years, so that's good. But everyone who watches this show understands all the different subplots going on. So let's talk about a few of the narratives that I find particularly interesting. So obviously, Tatum and Brown have had a lot of success. They made the ECF 5 times, and now they've made the finals twice. They've gotten really close, but they never seal a deal. That's boring. Everyone knows this. Same thing with Luka. He's gotten close, but he's never made the finals. There are more interesting narratives to me, like Kyrie playing against his old team, who he had a pretty bitter breakup with. Drew Holiday possibly winning a championship after he got traded away from the Bucks in an alleged upgrade. I'm a Drew stan. And my favorite, who's gonna win finals MVP? Is it gonna be Tatum or Brown, or maybe Drew Holiday? That's gonna change the dynamic of this team. Tatum is 1A while Brown is 1B. It's usually Tatum's night, but sometimes Brown will go off for 30 or 40. But if Brown wins the finals MVP this year, are we gonna hear TNT promotions next year saying Brown and the Celtics versus the whatever and whoever? I don't know, and most people don't care about this. But people like us are pretty excited about this story. And maybe you're watching this video after the finals ended, I don't know. So you already know how the story ends. I do want to address the counterpoint to my argue about people loving dynasties. The 3 years that Kevin Durant was in Golden State, viewership of the finals went down every year, which is contrary to what I said about the public loving dynasties. You'd expect the finals viewership to go up every year with Kevin Durant's success, not shrink. I have a theory on this. By the way, these are all opinions, so if I get something wrong, please let me know. I'm here to learn. But my thoughts on the decreasing interest of the Golden State Warriors dynasty are that the team's identity changed once Durant joined the team. No shit. I think people liked that team originally because they didn't feel like the favorites, even though they became the best team in the NBA. But when KD signed there, they felt like the dark side. They felt like the Sith. They were the obvious front runners, and the more that they won, the more it felt like a foregone conclusion that they were going to win more. It's fun to watch dynasty teams because you're hoping they'll win and continue their dynasty. And maybe you'll get to see something historic. Or you're hoping they'll lose and you'll get to watch this incredible run fail and see some real agony of defeat. So the Golden State Warriors were too good to the point where people couldn't even imagine them not winning. That's my theory, at least. For me, I think the best finals are when there are players that are at the end of their career, because you know this is more than likely their last opportunity to contribute to the game of basketball. Not necessarily that they win a championship if they've never won one, but the intensity of them knowing that their career is about to end. It feels like they cherish it more because they know they might not ever experience it again, which we have this year a little bit with Al Horford. Al Horford is going to be a Hall of Famer. He's a 2-time NCAA champion. He's been an All-Star. He's been All-NBA, and he might have now, I don't know when you're watching this video, but he might have won a championship. Al Horford is 38. This might be his last opportunity. And when I'm watching him out there, you can really tell he's relishing this experience, and it's really cool. So that is my favorite plot line in this year's finals. All right, thank you for being here. If you like the video, like it. If you dislike the video, dislike the video. Give me a recommendation, give me suggestions. I'll happily take them and maybe make a video from them. Be good to your mothers, eat a corn dog.